In 1998, a country that had never won a World Cup lifted the biggest trophy in football. A team built from the sons of Algeria, Ghana, Armenia, and Guadeloupe. The press called it a fairy tale, but they were wrong. It wasn't a fairy tale at all. It was a factory, and that factory was about to become the most productive machine the sport has ever seen. This is the story of how France stopped producing footballers and started producing an empire. To understand the machine, you have to go back to the wreckage it was built on. Through the 1980s and into the early 1990s, French football was an afterthought. Big stadiums, small ambitions. The national team flattered occasionally and collapsed reliably. In 1993, France failed to qualify for the World Cup. They only needed a draw. Instead, they lost in the dying minutes at home. A nation with the population, the money, and the football culture to compete with anyone had somehow talked itself out of the tournament. The Federation looked at the wreckage and asked a question nobody in football had seriously asked before. What if the problem isn't the players we have? What if the problem is how we're finding them? The answer already existed. It had been running quietly since 1988, hidden away inside a chateau an hour outside Paris, Clairefontaine. Most academies chase the best players money can buy. Clairefontaine did the opposite. It hunted for potential before the market even knew it existed, pulling in 13-year-olds from housing estates and suburbs the football world barely glanced at, places like Bondy, Trappes, the northern banlieues of Paris, neighborhoods that had every reason to be ignored. The Federation built a pipeline, regional centers feeding into Clairefontaine, every player learning the same technical foundation, the same tactical language. So a kid from Marseille and a kid from Lille would arrive already speaking the same football. No other country had built anything like it. It wasn't glamorous, it was infrastructure. And infrastructure, it turns out, wins more than talent ever does alone. By 1998, the first wave had matured. Zinedine Zidane, son of Algerian immigrants, raised in a tough quarter of Marseille. Patrick Vieira, born in Senegal. Thierry Henry, out of the Paris suburbs, sharpened at Clairefontaine itself. Lilian Thuram, raised in Guadeloupe. This was not an accident of geography. It was the direct, engineered result of a federation that had decided the best footballers in France were not going to come from the traditional pipelines and had gone looking in the places everyone else had written off. The 1998 World Cup on home soil should have been unbearable pressure. Instead, it became a coronation. France ground through the tournament with a defense that barely conceded. And in the final against Brazil, Zidane, a man not known even as a scorer, headed in 2 goals before halftime. Emmanuel Petit added a third in stoppage time. France were world champions for the first time in their history. The image of that summer, a multicultural France celebrating in the streets under a banner reading Black, Blanc, Beurre, became a symbol the country told itself about who it was. 2 years later, the same corps won the European Championship too, the first team in over 30 years to hold both titles at once. The joke nation of 1993 had become the best team on the planet in 7 years. Here is where most stories about a golden generation ends. The stars age, the academy that built them gets forgotten, and a decade later, the country is back wondering what went wrong. France refused to follow that script, because Clairefontaine was never about one generation.
It was a permanent system, running in the background, whether anyone was paying attention or not. By the early 2010s, the same suburbs that produced Henry and Vieira were producing an even deeper pool. Paul Pogba out of Rossier-en-Brie, N'Golo Kanté out of Paris, so undersized that scouts dismissed him for years before he became the most complete midfielder of his generation. And in Bondy, the same town that raised Vieira, a teenager was tearing through youth football so fast that professional coaches were running out of ways to describe him. Kylian Mbappé. The 2018 World Cup in Russia became the proof that the machine hadn't just replaced 1998, it had multiplied it. France's average starting age was among the youngest in the tournament, built almost entirely from graduates of the same academy pipeline the Federation had spent 30 years refining. In the round of 16, a 19-year-old Mbappé destroyed Argentina almost single-handedly, the first teenager since Pelé to score twice in a World Cup knockout match. In the final against Croatia, France won 4-2, and Mbappé became the youngest player to score in a World Cup final since that same Brazilian legend 60 years earlier. France were world champions again, 20 years after the first title, with almost none of the same players and almost all of the same DNA. By now, the rest of the world had started to notice something strange in the data. France wasn't just winning tournaments, it was exporting more professional footballers than any other country on earth. Year after year to leagues across England, Spain, Italy, and Germany. Entire national teams elsewhere were being quietly stocked with players who had come up through French academies and simply never made the French senior squad because the competition for places had become that brutal. Losing out on the French national team had become good enough to become a star for someone else's. The 2022 World Cup in Qatar tested whether any of it was sustainable. France arrived as defending champions, a role that had eaten alive nearly every team before them, and immediately lost key players to injury before a ball was kicked. Didier Deschamps, the World Cup winning captain from 1998, turned World Cup winning coach 20 years later, he didn't panic. He simply reached back into the same endless pipeline and plugged in the next names. France reached the final again, and in a final against Argentina that will be replayed for decades, Mbappé scored a hat-trick, the first in a World Cup final in over half a century, and still lost on penalties. Losing that final should have broken a lesser program. Instead, France simply kept moving, because the machine was never built around any one tournament. It was built to keep producing the next wave, regardless of what happened to the last one. So, how did a country that couldn't qualify for a World Cup in 1993 become the deepest talent factory the sport has ever seen? The answer isn't one genius signing. It's not one golden generation getting lucky at the same time. It's a federation that made a decision 35 years ago to look for talent in the places the rest of the football world had decided weren't worth the trip, and then built permanent infrastructure to develop it once found. Other countries have academies. France built a pipeline that runs continuously, generation after generation, regardless of who's in charge or which stars retire. 2 World Cups, 2 European Championships, and a talent export machine so productive that half the squads at any given international tournament now have a French Academy graduate somewhere on the bench. Not because France got lucky twice, because France stopped depending on luck at all. The country that once couldn't beat Bulgaria at home now supplies the world with players, and the world simply hasn't caught up.
If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, leaving a like,
commenting below and sharing it with other football fans. Thank you for watching.